This move, he contends, will underscore Bitcoin's enduring relevance as an asset and its potential as a hedge against currency devaluation.
You think has ever been?
The ongoing adoption of Bitcoin by governments, institutions, and media signifies a broader recognition of its value.
Get ready for a seismic shift in the financial world as BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, prepares to launch a Bitcoin ETF. This could be the catalyst that sends crypto prices soaring to new all-time highs. But what does it mean for investors? In this video, we'll break down everything you need to know about BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF, and discuss the potential impact on crypto prices. So if you're interested in learning more about this exciting development, and how it could affect your investment portfolio, be sure to watch this video until the end. Subscribe to our channel for the latest news and analysis on BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF and the crypto market as a whole. And let's get started.
Back when in history there may have been something, but no, it's not normally seen as an option. Therefore, the idea of downgrading from AAA to AA kind of seems odd. On the other hand, basic supply and demand. The price of those bonds is falling because there's excess supply and limited demand. And if that trend continues, which it appears that it's going to at the rate that our government keeps spending, I think it's not a full-on panic yet, Mike, but it could turn into one. And panics can get ugly in a hurry. Here's a couple things that are happening in Japan. I'm glad you bring Japan up. So if I asked listeners, what's the best performing global market this year? Most people would say the United States, right? Very few would say, well, wait a minute, Europe's outperforming the US, and actually Japan is outperforming both of those, and then emerging markets are a distant fourth. You know, Japan's stocks have been en fuego. I mean, completely en fuego. And part of that's because their return on invested capital has been the same as U.S. companies. Now, their ROE has been much lower because they're not very capital efficient. They keep too much cash on the balance sheet. They don't do M&A. They don't do restructuring. They let bad businesses kind of just go on. Sounds like what we were doing there for a while. And so the only way out for Japan for years has been to weaken their currency. And, you know, if you ask again, the average person, how's the yen doing this year? I think people would say, I don't know, it's probably flat. No, it's down 9%. And that linkage between devaluing their currency and appreciating stock market has been really strong for Japan. And part and parcel of that was that Japanese rates, particularly the 10-year rate, was kind of capped. There was something called yield curve control. It was managed by this guy, Hiroki Kuroda-san, and he retired. And Crazy Kuroda-san is gone. They got this new guy, and he said that he was going to give up this yield curve control. It looks like a bigger move than it is, but on a percentage basis, it is a gigantic move up in rates. And the real problem is, as bad as the U.S. government budget deficit is, meaning interest on U.S. government debt now is bumping up against the highest level it has ever been.
The ongoing adoption of Bitcoin by governments, institutions, and media signifies a broader recognition of its value. However, Yusko asserts this journey is just beginning, comparing the initial years to the current widespread interest and investment. With a giant spotlight on Bitcoin ETFs, Yusko highlights this being a significant development in the financial ecosystem. He also suggests that BlackRock, under the guidance of Larry Fink, will lead the charge in obtaining regulatory approval for a Bitcoin ETF. This move, he contends, will underscore Bitcoin's enduring relevance as an asset and its potential as a hedge against currency devaluation.
You think about that.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean? Well, we can't not pay the interest, right? Or then we default, which is what Fitch and others are making subtle noises about. Well, we can't afford to pay the interest if rates If we issued all the bonds at 0, and now rates are 5 on their way maybe to 6, how do we pay that interest? Well, this is what Japan has faced. And for years, their rates just stayed at 0. They just kept them at 0. And Kyle Bass for years would scream about how these guys had to default. And there was no way they could balance the budget. And they hit 100% debt to GDP, then 150%, then 200%. And now they're at 225%, 226 or something like that. That's unfathomable for where we are in the US at just over 100, but probably prophetic, probably the way we're headed. All central banks are facing the same problem. And it's a problem of their own creation. And it's, I will argue, an intentional act, because governments, as they consolidate power, spend. Why do they do that? Well, because it's profitable for them and their cronies. And I was amazed. I actually was amazed by this, that I think it was Mitch McConnell actually said on television, don't worry about all this money that's going to Ukraine. It's not going to the Ukrainians. It's going to us. It's going to our companies to buy bullets and bombs and stuff. So, wow, he just admitted that it's just graft and corruption. So that proclivity to spend isn't going away.